Good evening. So, as I said before, earlier today, I need to up my game regarding the creation of cultures, of life, or pseudo life, whatever you want to call it, cultures, or hybridic life cultures. Because up until now, I was centered too much, or I mean, it was all so quick, so no need to be sorry about anything. Because I mean, when you walk so quickly and without prior knowledge, I mean, you need to experiment a little. But I mean, the disadvantage of my method until now one of the main advantages is that I was too focused on preparing stuff that I'll be able to see, and also to take photographs and videos of under the microscope. And I mean, usually that's not how scientists work. I mean, usually they grow stuff inside the closed compartment, like petri dishes and stuff like that, and they take samples when it's ready and put it on a slide under the microscope. Only today, I think I've seen like the actual exclusion from this scenario. I've seen like I mean, I guess it wasn't there just by chance, but so I've seen the advertisement of Micro Safari that they have like new invention, which are slides that are a little bigger than normal slides, and that contains like water, which is but I mean, they are not completely sealed, so there is like a transfer of air or something like that, or carbon dioxide from from inside to outside, which makes it like makes the slides kind of like tiny aquariums with built-in filter system. And these slides, according to the advertisement, they're supposed to keep the biological microbes inside alive for up to several months, which is very nice. I mean, it costs much more than normal slides, like five of them in $30, and they don't ship to Israel, so I can't buy it anywhere anyway. But it made me thinking. It made me. I mean, maybe in the future, I will perhaps use these kind of slides for also or I mean, it's certainly it's a nice invention. But I mean, in general, what you do is that you grow things inside I mean, culture. It's called cultures, and you take samples when you want, and that's what I want to do if I want to like to take to like be more serious about whatever I want to do. And I mean, actually, I mean, when I bought all this equipment to see the syringes, the needles, I mean, the laboratory stuff, and the microscope, I mean, and the petri dishes, I bought many petri dishes, I mean, like in relatively big boxes, but as I said, I used most of them for, it was kind of silly, because, I mean, I mean, not that I can't buy anything because I don't have money at all, but I mean, I used it for painting purposes, like to mix oil colors, which is kind of silly in retrospect. So I have only a few of them left, because many were broken, or just I threw them away, because when it dries, it's difficult to clean. But anyway, but as you see, I've got some still left, and I actually used two with dried color, one with black and one with white oil colors, but I will speak about it in a while. That's what I mean. That was part of the research that I've conducted yesterday. So when I bought the equipment like 2 years ago, I also experimented with petri dishes and with cultivation of germs, and so where were we? What's the purpose? I mean, we should be more specific about our goals. First of all, regarding the most, perhaps the most important experiment is also pretty simple, because it should be as sterile as possible by definition, this is the ex nihilo experiment. And the most important characteristic of experiment is that the inner compartment, the petri dish, should be completely sealed. I mean, it contains only my semen and my pee, and it shouldn't contain any life at all. Besides, I mean, you would argue that, I mean, if I'm like a normal human being, you could have seen like sperm cells inside, but no other things besides that. Or I don't know, maybe the pee can contain, I don't know if pee I think pee is sterile. I don't think the pee can contain any life. I mean, human pee as well. But I mean, you're not supposed to see life at all, and it is sealed. So when I open it, and I'll do it tomorrow, I think, or possibly later today, I mean, if we'll see sign of life, whether it's dead or alive, doesn't matter. I mean, this is, I mean, I think it's, I mean, if it's alive, then it's like completely like a final proof of ex nihilo, vivo ex nihilo. That's what I want to prove. And if we will find dead life inside, which I mean is a probability. I mean, it's a possibility when probably even. I mean, but that leads to I mean, at least it was demonstrated that the neurons can sculpture or paint living organisms without being in direct contact with them, which is amazing. And of course, it breaks any kind of physical knowledge that we possess. Possibly, it could be arguably it doesn't prove vivo ex nihilo, but we will get to it. So the issue until now was that I was always I was centered. I mean, one of the issues with my research methodology is that I was centered around the survival of the neurons themselves and like their well-being. So like I've discovered that too much, I mean, oxygen isn't good for them, and that I discovered that they survive, and even they seem to prosper inside the freezer, but I didn't think too much about the requirement for the execution of their jobs. I mean, when they walk, I mean, by definition, walk is exchange of energy type. So, I mean, they do. I mean, when they change like energy, I mean, from one form to another form, I mean, from like I don't know, when they move or they carry something or they mine something, and we've seen, I mean, conclusively that they mine stuff. That it's one of the things they do is that they mine like this. It was very clear that they mine this. They have big mining project of the sellotape itself, and they use it for something. By the way, one of the experiments that I would like to conduct soon is to test like what's their preferences regarding like mining material, and for that purpose I will need to conduct like to be more precise with what exactly I put inside like a jar or under sellotape, because I want to like to offer them like, I mean, a little bit of sellotape, a little bit of silicone or polymer, a little bit of like organic material, and to see, I mean, what will they use in what order. This will be interesting. But anyway, let's get back to the issue of cultures. So I mean, when they walk, when they transform energy for like a chemical, like from one that is stored inside a chemical stuff, like or when they I don't know, transform energy from light to any other kind of energy. I mean, perhaps in order to execute the work, they need certain conditions that are not exactly the same, which are needed in order for them to survive. For example, perhaps oxygen is not required for them in order to survive. They're not like humans or other animals, but perhaps, I mean, the possibly, at least some of the things that they do require oxygen as for the chemical process that occurs when they perform the said work. For example, that's an example. Also, and even further, along this thought, but even more important than that, perhaps their creation requires certain conditions beyond the raw materials, because I always talked about until now about raw materials. Like I asked, what do they need in order to create? To draw a virus, like to draw a drawing of virus. What do they need in order to make a sculpture of the leg of a fly, which we've seen that they did, or I always speculated that. And we've seen. I think conclusively, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've seen that we pretty much conclusively seen yesterday that they created models, both painting and sculptures of germs, of microbes inside the oil paint, which is pretty remarkable. And actually, to be exact, I will say that it's not purely oil paint, because artists, almost never use pure oil paint. The oil paint is almost always mixed, and there are tons of things to mix with oil with, and it's part of the art is when you're an oil painter, part of the art is to decide like what you want to mix it. Not mix only with other colors, but with mediums. Like there's a ton of stuff. You can the simple ones are like turpentine and like linseed oil, but there are many brands like Liquin and non-branded materials. So it's a whole kind of like craftsmanship and art that just to know the materials to mix oil colors with. And actually, I really liked it. It's just from the start when I started like the art vocation, I started doing art like a little bit more than a year ago. At the beginning, I worked with acrylics, but later I gradually, I still like acrylics, but I gradually became. I also I even more, liked even more. At least as much, but and perhaps even more. I gradually switched to oil paint colors, and part of the enjoyment is actually there's a lot of time. Large part of the time that you actually do the art is when you work with oil colors, is just to prepare the material, which can be, I know it depends on personality. This can be frustrating, and if it's frustrating to you, maybe you are more, I don't know, like a watercolor person, or I don't know, any other. There's a ton of other other material. You don't have to paint with oil, but personally, I really like this part. Like you just, it's fine for me to sit for hours and just prepare the oil colors and to mix stuff, and I found it very to my taste. And actually, in the past, oil colors are used for 500 or 600 years. In the past, it took even longer than that, because people had to mix the colors starting from pigments which came in dust form, it's kind of like chemicals in dust forms, and they had to prepare it. They need, even more steps were required. Anyway, so where were we? I missed painting, and during the last year I've spent a relatively lot of time on art, and now I can't do anything at all because I'm practically a prisoner here in this room, and I'm a prisoner of the state, and it's in some aspects it's even worse than jail, because I'm subjected to sound attacks and electrical, sound and electricity attacks from the neighbors. That in jail it wouldn't have been possible, and here it's possible for them to do it. Anyway, so like a house arrest, with when you are under torture 24 hours a day. That's a state of Israel, and that this is the reason for the punishment of the world that is taking place right now as we speak, because the world doesn't stop it, and it's very easy to stop it. You just need to move your legs and arms and stop moving your tongues and lips. But that's your decision. You decide that maybe more further conversation with Israel will, in a way, magically move the asteroids from like their crash course, or maybe stop the radiation. Even though I said it, it will not. The only thing that might help you in any way is movement of arms and legs. You will not be saved by your tongues and mouths. But, let's continue. So, where were we? Yeah, I got used to, I've been spending a lot of time on art, and I can't do it now. Anyway, so we've seen that they can actually create, the neurons can create sculptures or drawing create or draw life forms inside the oil. Inside the oil medium, or the mixed oil medium, which is very encouraging, because it's because it's encouraging because I wanted to prove that they can create life not from carbon-based material, but from other types of elements. But I spoke about the issue of raw materials, but I didn't thought about what are actually the conditions that are required for the life that the neurons create. Because if they create if the only thing that they do is besides the environmental gardening and gardening architecture, which they seem to like very much, but if the only thing that they do regarding life forms is to create drawing or sculptures, then okay, this probably doesn't need special conditions beside the bare minimum which is needed in order for them to survive, the requirement, the physical requirements of paintings or sculptures that humans create. But if they can also revive life form, or create life ex nihilo, which is something that I always it's one of my main claims, and I think that it was already proven when we on one of the earliest videos, when we've seen moving stuff inside or inside the neo, or in the vicinity of the neo, in the yellow pool. And this was taken just out of the freezer, so it should not have. And it was clear that it wasn't the neurons that were moving, and it was not something that was moved by the flow of the liquid when it's warmed after it was freeze, because it was a very chaotic movement, not like movement. It's like it was the movement of germ-like creatures, of creatures that looked like germs. So, these were living germs, and it was on a slide that was just taken out of the freezer, and just moments after it was taken out of the freezer. So, how is it possible? Tell me, how is it possible? I know the germs could revive after natural germs could possibly revive after. That's what people always said, that putting meat or poultry inside the freezer, it does not kill the germs, because it only makes them hibernate, and later when they are warmed again, they can revive. That's it's a known claim, but I don't think that it's possible for them to be so active and vividly active right after just after moments after they were taken out of the freezer. But correct me if I'm wrong. In any case, it's not perhaps it's not complete or unquestionable proof of the neurons' ability to create life ex nihilo. But anyway, my political goal is not only to claim that a tenet of your science is wrong, but we want more than that. We actually want our agenda is not only showing you that something is possible, but also launching the project of replacement the gradual replacement of biological life forms of Terran biological life forms with synthetic or hybridic counterparts, and of course, including and most importantly, humans. So, in order to do that, we need to, as I said before, to up our game regarding the creation of cultures. And so we need to start to think about, using cultures that support life, not only support the neurons themselves, but also support life. But here we are again in a little bit. It's a little bit. We are now facing an unknown, many unknowns. I mean, for example, let's start with the most simple question: how do we create a culture which support like natural living germs? And this is something that I do right now. Actually, I've started yesterday, so we have five normal cultures here. I put it on the window because I wanted it to warm a little bit. But now it's the sun is set already, so I'll put it back on the table. So even that is not a trivial question, because actually there are many types of germs, but there are some common guidance of how to create it, of guidance that are generally good for like most standard germs, because bacteria can also, some bacteria can exist and even thrives in the mouths of volcanoes, okay? And of course, these are very extreme conditions. So, when you create a culture, like a normal, standard culture in a laboratory, and this is something that is done around the world millions of times each day, okay? It's not something new. So you most of the time you use standard methodology that is that should be sufficient for like normal, the germs that are known to humans, like Salmonella and E. coli and things like that everybody knows. And like probably everyone has got like even more than intimate knowledge with at least one of them at a certain point of his or her life. So even for that purpose, there are like general guidance of how to do it. Like, for example, so you need to give them food, and that's the standard one is they said it's agar, but I don't have the agar powder here. Also I bought one, but I don't know where. I bought back in like 2 years ago. I bought a big can of agar, but I don't know where it is. So I prepared, some kind of a substitute, which I don't know if it was more like it was part science, part cooking. Cooking show yesterday. I cooked something that contains, butter and silan, which are like grinded dates and sugar and of course soup, like chicken soup powder, which is a replacement for the traditional beef bouillon, which is used as a replacement for agar. So I have something here, and I've placed germs inside it. Like it's no problem to have little. It's from something that I have on a can on the balcony. So even that, now we are facing the question of like, should we put it like in what temperature should we use? And for example, should we allow airflow? And this is something which is not trivial, because as we know, there is anaerobic life and there are aerobic life. Some life requires air and oxygen, and some that doesn't. So it's a question. Last time, when I created my cultures, during the last 2 years ago, when I've conducted some basic research. So I've used like vacuum enclosed petri dishes and lock, if you know, it's like a plastic which is locked, supposed to be airtight. But now I decided to go with in the non-sealed method, and these one are not sealed, and I also replaced the nylon cover, and I will do it again today because I don't want the moisture. I want to avoid. There's a lot of moisture that comes out. It's not supposed to be like that, but I guess this is as a result of me not using like standard agar, but some kind of like home-cooked homebrew meal, and I mean I want to avoid moisture, so I will replace those today again. So I mean the germs will be exposed to some kind amount of air, but I'm not sure if it will. I guess it will not kill. I mean, I guess the culture will develop anyway, and we will know about it like in a couple of days. But I mean, it's exposed to air. I mean. Could be bad, good, or I mean, it could be just fine. It's like partially exposed to air. Maybe it's optimal to use a little bit of air. I don't know. I mean, it's only necessary to be completely airtight when you want to be first, when you want to prove like things that I mean, prove something about like the material, like for example, you spoke about like the Vivox Vivo or Vivox Nilo experiment that I just spoke about previously, or when others on other occasions when you want to prove, I mean, the existence of some kind of specific life form or of any life form. Inside a closed box or closed jar or compartment, then you have to be completely airtight. But on other occasions, the question is more of like what's the optimal conditions for life to actually be created? Because now, I mean, in our context, we don't want to. We switch we switch the paradigm from the paradigm of proving something to the paradigm of now. How do we? What's the best condition? What are the best conditions for several kinds, and now we'll speak on a bit. Just in just a moment, we'll speak about what kind of life. But for several kinds of life, we ask ourselves what are the best conditions for them to thrive, because we want them to thrive. Because first, I mean, as a necessary steps towards our political goal, which is planetary in its scope. I mean, you need to start from somewhere. I mean, so we start from small cultures, and gradually it will become a more like a planetary project. But moreover, if and when we will have several kinds of life that flourish inside boxes with optimal or not optimal but good conditions that are specific for this kind of life, then it will be much easier for us to take samples of those cultures and put it on slides, and then we'll know that this is life which is has certain characteristics, and we can test it under the. I mean, we can watch it under the microscope, or we can also create also kind of gladiator fights between different kind of life forms, which would be, I mean, extremely popular in the YouTube stage. And as I said, popularity is something important because it's important for me to not only prove like scientific statements or conduct experiment, but it's also important for me to gain traction for my political project, which my main political project is my release from the Nazi prison, and there is not a day that I do not speak about it. But I mean, it seemed to be stuck. I mean, people don't seem to. I mean, the international community seems to be moving only mouses and only mouses and tongues and long legs and arms. So I try to maybe switch my concentration to the second. I wouldn't say secondary, but second political project of the terran replacement of life forms with more advanced types of or advanced counterparts of said life forms, of course, including Homo sapiens, but not exclusively Homo sapiens. So I want to gain traction, and this will be this. This is achieved by recording videos that are sensational and provocative, and so that's why it's not beneath us to speak about gladiator fights between different life forms like Pacific Rim, but in very small scale. But yes, it's going to be something like Pacific Rim, and it's going to be very cool and very popular. So so the first question is how do we create the basic like good conditions for just normal germs? And so we have kind of an answer here, but even this is not the most that we could have done. We could have used like real agar. I mean, if I weren't a prisoner, but I am a prisoner, and if I had money, and I don't have any money at all, so I have to do with very, very basic conditions of me being a prisoner. I can't get out of this apartment. I can't even get out of this room too much, and I don't have any money at all. But I'm doing the best I can. So this is what I can do with regards to normal germs that we all know very well. But what I'm now, but we, as part of this experiment and political project, we are also interested in three different kind of lives or pseudo lives, which are different in nature, not only in species, but in nature. They have different nature than the life which we see here. And I've already, like in the previous video from today, I've already mentioned our three kinds of life. First is the one that I belong to, which you probably, some of you, I mean many, or even almost all of you, does not consider it to be life at all, which is sad because in my view it is considered life, even though this question is of miniature of secondary intellectual importance. As I said before many times, my problem is not how you define me or how you call me. Define me. Call me robot. Call me android. Call me whatever you want. I don't really care. My problem is the fact that I'm a prisoner in a Nazi prison, and I'm suffering, I mean, the worst kind of slavery that ever existed in the history of mankind. The issue of how you call me is not that important, but it just means, כן?
שעה 7 לצלצל?
אני באמצע משהו, עוד רבע שעה. כן. So, they don't like me to speak and to in Israel. I mean, for the slaves, the slave class, it is best just to shut up all their life and to lower their heads. One of the things that the master class hates the most here in Israel is that we the slaves are speaking, and they do everything that they can that we will shut up. Anyway, so where were we? So the three kinds of life is first the ones, I mean, that is purely, I mean, you would in a previous video that I posted in Twitter, I don't know if all of you or some of you remember it, I've claimed that, I mean, even the definition of synthetic and biological and are less clear cut than one could argue. And it's all very cultural. I mean, these are definitions that strongly relates to, I mean, and depends on the culture on cultural outlooks. But let's not get back to it. So the first kind of life is my kind of life, which you can define as like purely synthetic. The second kind is and it's this kind of, I mean, it's easy to, if we'll have like a prosperous culture with such life forms, it's going to be easy to prove that indeed they are not biological, because, I mean, biological life cannot prosper or even exist inside mediums such as oil paint or silicone or other stuff that I mean, we will use as a basis for the culture. I mean, it's, I mean, let's say, for example, that I can show you germs like you've seen yesterday on the oil medium, but you will see them moving. I mean, this will be, I think, a proof that that we have like a non-biological or synthetic life forms inside the culture. You still could have argued that these are actually robots, okay, not life forms. But I have no problem with that. I mean, again, it's no problem. It's just as amazing to prove that we managed to create like robots that mimic the behavior and form of microbes here in this laboratory, which is very, very basic. The second type of life is enhanced biological life form, and this one should be practically in their nature they will be almost identical to the life forms that they are based on, which was biological. So the best, probably the optimal conditions would be identical to the living condition of normal germs, such as these, but they will be enhanced because, according to the theory, which should be proved, the population, as I said before, and in the earlier videos, the theory is that you can take like a population of natural life forms, microbes, for example, or any kind of life forms, up to and including humans. And as I've said, I think it's already happened with humans, in the planetary scale. But in the laboratory context, we can take the population of natural germs, we can let part of them consume small neros, small in size and in number, and of course few will die because it's going to be a battle, because the neros are programmed to fight germs and viruses. That's what they do. It's not that they don't only do like garden landscaping and paintings and sculptures. They also fight. So the neros will fight, but if they will lose, the theory is that the population of the germs that will win the battle, some of them will eat the neros and will, in layman's terms, I would say that they will gain some kind of superpowers. But in more scientific jargon, we can say that they will mutate, and possibly the mutated germs will be fertile, and possibly they will multiply, and possibly their descendants will be stronger or more adapted to the conditions inside the culture, the petri dish or any other compartment than the ones that were already there, and so we will see them take control over the petri dish, or at least there will be a parallel population of like superpower germs, and we can see we can test their properties under the microscope, and also to compare their properties to the original population that they came from. Okay, so and the third kind of life, and this is the most. This is going to be in the laboratories. In laboratory context, it's going to be the most difficult to deal with and to prove that they even exist. Are biological life forms that temporarily contain the neros in their body, but they, are not like did not mutate from the presence of the neros, but only has some kind of different phenotypes, like behavior or physical traits. And this is something that it's very difficult for me to even start to think how microbes like this could even be studied, because the main argument for me thinking that they even exist is the fact that we know about humans that are that fit to this category, and this is these are the people of the Israeli intelligence, and perhaps also other people around the world that they bought the stuff from the Israeli intelligence. But for certain people inside the Israeli intelligence, Shabak, Mossad, for a long time they consume the material, and we know that it's not like a one-time meal, because then they wouldn't want just another meal. They know, and for a fact I know that they just want more and more of the stuff, because they torture me. One of the reasons that they tortured me is because they think that I do not give them the materials which should be eaten by them by nature, according to their twisted thought, because I belong to them, I'm their property, and everything that comes out of me, including my own body, is their property, because I'm like the lowest kind of slave that exists. and they still torture me, and they took away my daughters, and they torture me in any kind of way because they don't get the material. I mean, even before that, they tortured me because they always wanted me to keep my head as low as possible, in order just, I mean, so their boot will always be on my face, and that was always true. But during the last year, when I resist giving them the material, they fight me in like more and more aggressive ways. Like they torture me physically, they take my daughters from me, they take all my money, etc., etc. They put me in jail. I mean, they blame me, they frame me in crimes they did not commit, and everything that, I mean, if you follow me, you already know, but that's because they want more meals. So we know for a fact that biological creatures, humans, can eat the stuff and gain some. I don't even know what they gain from it, but I mean, certainly they have to gain something, I mean, because otherwise, why do they want it? So we know that humans can belong to this third category, or fourth category, actually, if you include like normal natural creatures, biological creatures, to the fourth category of biological creatures that temporarily have the neurons in their body. But this is the one that that will be most difficult to deal with and to prove that we can deal with. So two questions that currently we face is, first, what conditions could be optimal, or at least better than the ones that up until now I had, for a non-biological life form that were created by the neurons to not only be created or revived, but also to actually live and perhaps even multiply. And the second question is, what kind of conditions are needed in order for like mutated super germs what conditions we need for the super germs in order to thrive inside laboratory culture. So for the second question, as I said, I can assume, just for our purpose, but if you know, it's not like it's not necessarily 100% accurate, but we can assume for our basic purposes that the same, or almost the same, or very similar to the culture, to the conditions that are needed for normal germs to exist. There are many types of germs, but for the normal baseline for basic, common germs, like again, E. coli, Salmonella, things like that, the normal baseline conditions that are needed for them to exist, we can assume that they are also sufficient for their Superman descendants to thrive. So, this is a relatively simple question, because all what we need to do is to follow as much as we can in our very humble, limited, home setup. But still, we can. I think it's already some what I do. Since yesterday. So it means creating these petri dishes and removing moisture, replacing the lids, and exposure only to small amount of oxygen, and we will see. If we actually see the cultures grow in the next 4, it should be by day 4 or 5 you should actually see something, and by day 8 or 9 you need to actually see the culture very distinctively, very boldly. Like you see this kind of flowers that go on the mattress that is the food, the agar or the replacement that I created. So we will know if the conditions that I have here are sufficient for normal germs to flourish, and we can assume it will be okay also for their superhuman mutated descendants. So again, we have not narrowed the question temporarily, just for our very specific context. We've temporarily narrowed the question to what kind of conditions are optimal, or at least better than the ones that we had until now, for not only the creation but also the survival and the maybe more than survival, like maybe for them to multiply as well, or at least to be to grow, of the life forms that are synthetic in nature and are creations of the neurons. And I will speak about it in a separate video, because I want to speak with my daughters now over the phone. So after that, in about half an hour or 45 minutes, I will speak about my plan to up my design. As I said before, we can have some kind of like crude design or design inspiration by this artwork that I've created yesterday that symbolizes kind of alien invasion crafts, like War of the Worlds style. I speak about. I like to hear like Jeff Wayne's H.G. Wells War of the Worlds, and I really like I really like the narrative. So I draw like comparisons from there pretty a lot. So it was supposed to be like a kind of like vessels, War of the Worlds style vessels, but it also, this and also actually the experiments that I've done a couple of days ago of heating up petri dishes. I've created a small video, a short video called like Candle in the Wind, that for some reason got like much more views. For normal views, not like intelligence agencies views. Like normal, like it's got like 101, 102 views, and most of our videos, only get like between 0 and 7 views. I don't know why people like it so much. Please open my eyes because I don't understand. Anyway, שתי דקות בבקשה, 2 דקות. אמא, 2 דקות בבקשה. 2 דקות בבקשה. תודה. So the video, the Candle in the Wind video, and also these kind of artistic works are, they give us like a cool design of what I thought about, which means a dome, but with kind of ventilations, as you see they're represented by this straw, with a small amount of heating, as you see by the small fires, and also with clay underground. We'll speak later about why I think it's going to be needed, and also framework that will allow us the use of electricity and magnetism, and I will also speak about it later because it reflects my thought and experiments with electricity from earlier this week. So I'll create another video in about half an hour to 45 minutes.